Hi guys, welcome to Daren's Corner, and today we're just going to go through some ideas that are showing up on my inspiration tab on my YouTube channel. So with that being said, let's get looking and seeing what you can find, certainly what I can find. Straight away we've got bilingual South England bus vlog answering your most frequently asked community questions. That'd be an interesting one to look at. I wonder what shows up. Yeah, I need to be able to learn more Welsh than what I can speak in order to do train announcements. Those are the related videos as to what I can find. We'll have to have a look at that, but I've certainly had a look. A cinematic train journey from Cardiff to Bristol, tracking historic gauge changes. This sounds like one to engage. That's an interesting one. We'll definitely have to have a look at that one. Cardiff Central to Bristol Temple Meads. Nicky Pegley. Sorry about that. And then you've got Porthbadog to Blaenau Festiniog. That's definitely one I do want to have a look at. I definitely want to look at doing. Porthbadog to Blaenau Festiniog. Is there a change involved in that? Let's save that for a moment. Building a modern YouTube thumbnail using only the original Windows ME creative tools. That'd be an interesting one to look at. Let me save that too. I'll set up a virtual machine of Windows ME and look at that. Surviving a 100-mile UK train journey using only Windows 95 offline maps. Well, first off, I'd have to try and find where I can go within a 100-mile radius. And then we'll look at that. Again, I need to be able to learn to speak more Welsh before I even attempt to make that video. Setting up a retro local area network only using vintage Apple hardware. That'd be an interesting one to work out. Be also kind of impossible as well. Look at small. A cinematic Welsh language journey exploring every platform at Basingstoke. Well, platform E goes up to platform 5. In Die Tree Pedwar Pimp. I'll just have to have a look at those. And see if I can do that in Welsh. I'm 20% Welsh. Or thereabouts. It's definitely worth saving. Exploring every stop of the forgotten rural bus route along the South Downs. Yeah, I'll need to explore that. Yeah, I'll definitely need to explore that. Definitely one for my travel corner. rendering a 3D mascot animation using a PC from the year 2000. Be interesting to see, but yeah, I'd have to dig deep into that. Cooking frozen pies using a vintage 10-ton industrial steam press machine. Mapping the lost 1990s bus routes of Portsmouth using vintage Windows software. Well, that's definitely something to look at. It's definitely so worth looking at. Not that one. Well, you're exploring the bilingual signage differences at every major southwestern railway station. I can only think of a few stations in the southwest that have a Welsh name for it. Caerfathen being Bar Spa, Kyrwisk Dewi Sant being Exeter St David's. Other than that, there's not many much else. Apart from those two, Caersathlog being Salisbury. Now, Exeter St David's is managed by Great Western Railway and not South Western Railway, so that shouldn't count. I'll save the idea anyway, just in case I can think of something else. But at the moment, I can only think of those two. Can you make a traditional Welsh rarebit? Well, it only is just cheese on toast. I never did get a senior sauce. Tracking bilingual Welsh station announcements from Newport to London Paddington. Well, that would definitely be up my street. Was it Casnaworth? Bristol Parkway, Bristol Parkforth. I'll try it again. Casnaworth, Parkforth, Bristol, Swindon, Reading, and London Paddington. Do that most of the times. We'll save that idea. Cooking a traditional Sunday roast using only microwavable tinned food items. No, don't. No. Yeah, you can't really edit a 4K travel vlog on a Windows ME computer. I mean, even struggles with full HD. It struggles with 720p, let alone 4K. Compare frozen pies from Portsmouth to Worksop using a vintage travel oven. Yeah, that's not going to work. Sop. Recreating the Daren's Corner mascot using only Microsoft Paint and Windows 98. Didn't even know I had a mascot. I think I might have to make one. Ah. Building a vintage 2006 travel blog using original Windows XP Dreamweaver tools. Well, that's something I could definitely look at. But again, it'd have to be a virtual machine. Exploring the bilingual station displays on the new South Coast Metro Rail link. Well, that's something we could do in Wales. Speaking of which, I've asked Adam if we could pay a visit to Cardiff Bay, because that station has just recently been upgraded to now has 2 platforms instead of just the one. So I'll have a look at that. Building a modern mascot animation using legacy software to feature top YouTube commenters. Well, as interesting as that sounds, it's going to be quite difficult to try and replicate. Comparing the store brand frozen shepherd's pie using a vintage 2006 portable microwave. Where am I going to get one of those in 2026? The only way I'm going to find one of those is in a junk emporium, or the only way I'm going to be able to find that is in a junk emporium. But there's no guarantee that it's going to work. That's all of them. Tracking rare Welsh station announcements from Shrewsbury to the south coast. See what this says. Tracking rare Welsh station announcements from Shrewsbury to the south coast. You do realise I'm most likely going to end up in Wales at some point if I'm going to do it in as fewest trains possible. I'm going to end up in Wales at some point because I'll be going through Hereford. Unless I do Hereford and then Reading. Again, it'll be an interesting one to look at. Let me save that idea, and then what I'll do also is I'll look at some other topics. These are all based on what I've shared on my channel. That's not going to work. Exploring it, comparing every tin curries along the South Western Railway main line. Between Waterloo and Weymouth. It's an idea. Now, I started out with 12 ideas. Saved, that is. But, yeah, I'm going to have a lot more than that. The ultimate British bus station cafeteria breakfast challenge from Bournemouth to Bristol. Bournemouth to Bristol. Well, that would be interesting to see. But I don't think I've ever seen any bus station cafeteria breakfast items at Bristol Temple Meads. But I could be wrong. So if I'm going to make that possible, I need to make sure that I look at doing something that they both do, both places have. So I'm thinking maybe a pastry or something, and I'll focus more on just Bournemouth and Bristol. I'll look at every bit. I'll look at every change along the way. So chuck Southampton Central into that as well. So they do mean pastries at Southampton Central. I'll have to have a look at that. This is going to be interesting. Compare frozen pizza quality across every supermarket on the coastline and bus route. Well, it says we're boarding a coastline of 700, bearing in mind that bus route's now split into 4. Yeah, we want to make sure that they're cooked. So if I'm going to be doing that, I want to make sure that I can find something at each of the changes. So that's Portsmouth, Chichester, Littlehampton, Worthing, and then Brighton. We'll have to have a look at that. I'll probably do a bit of tweaking about with that. But there is a possibility I can make that work. Blind taste testing every sausage roll sold at Portsmouth Harbour. That's going to be interesting to do. And Portsmouth Harbour, I'm near that station, so that should be quite easy. So it says blind taste testing every sausage roll sold at Portsmouth Harbour station platform. So now, from what you've seen in any previous videos, you might have noticed Portsmouth Harbour has got 4 platforms, numbered 1 to 5. It's missing platform 2, and you'd have seen that in a Mysteries of the British Railway. I talk about that there. Now, Welsh faggots, they don't come in tins, they come in packets. They come in a tin tray. You get them in up to packs of 6, and I absolutely love them with chips and peas. And yes, I am talking about the food stuff there. Are they even going to have me testing haggis? Oh, that sounds very Welsh. So I could have I've got an idea developing there between the faggots and the haggis. So see which one tastes better. Put Wales and Scotland up against each other in a competition. They both take about the same amount of time, but haggis is stuffed in a seal-type packet, whereas faggots are in gravy and it's sealed in a tray. They'll be interested to see. Again, I'm talking about the food stuff, but I'll definitely have a look at those. Wow. You're looking at having me do something so antique that there's a good chance that I wasn't even born then. The ultimate frozen toad in a hole comparison across South Coast supermarkets. Well, the only one way I can find that out is if I then get 3 and then cook them. But of course, I'm going to have to then just write on the trays as to what's what, which toad in the hole came from where. Can we bake traditional Welsh shortbread using heat from vintage server racks? Don't know. Not something I'd think of. You're coming up with video ideas for me to test out stuff that's come way before my time. It's an interesting touch on things. Compare frozen sausage rolls from every supermarket near Portsmouth Harbour. In that case, because the nearest place the nearest shopping complex near Portsmouth Harbour is actually Gunwharf Quays, and there's not many food stalls there. It's mainly clothing shops. So I think I might have to do that from Portsmouth and Southsea. I might have to try that from Portsmouth and Southsea rather than Portsmouth Harbour. Because if there's any luck in finding that sort of stuff, it would be from around Portsmouth and Southsea. Let's see what else we find. Question is, how many buses are there in the New Forest? Comparing supermarket Cornish pasties while riding every bus through the New Forest. Yeah, I'll definitely save that. This is going to be an interesting one. I'll have to research into the New Forest and see what I can find. Let's have a look at what else we can find. Now, I'm well known for doing stuff for Daren's Music Corner, so let's see what we can find in the music sector. Again, you're doing something that's vintage. This recording heritage rail audio on Windows ME. Let's have a look. Composing a Welsh anthem using 1990s PC sound effects and bus engine noises. As interesting as that comes about, I don't think that's going to happen. Comparing portable CD players while riding the entire length of the 700 coastline. Don't forget the 701 that runs between Littlehampton and Worthing. Well, Wycombe Lancing to be more specific. Wycombe Lancing to be more complete. This is interesting so far. Rating retro keyboard demo songs while identifying Hampshire Railway platform lengths. How am I supposed to do that? I need to see all the railway stations of Hampshire before I can even attempt that. And last time I checked, there's 61 of them. Scoring a bus journey to Winchester using only Windows 98 startup sound samples. Nah. No, I found nothing. But let's have a look at my saved ideas. I had 12 to start with. I've now got 27. So let's go down to the bottom and then you'll see the 9 that I saved. Start with the 12 that I'd already saved. Which I'm going to do. And then once I've got these in ideas, most of these are going to be travel corner videos we have to make sure that the pizza's cooked. That's going to be fun. And again, it's the same with the sausage rolls as well. But yeah, we need to make sure that we have to make sure that we need to make sure that I need to change that because we're just put near Portsmouth. Grab something from each of the railway stations in the Portsmouth area. Cosham, Hilsea, Fratton, Portsmouth and Southsea, and Portsmouth Harbour. That's going to be a very interesting way to look about things. Well, I'll have a look at those and then I'll develop those into full-length videos. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.